I was moved to Germany in 1986 by Polygram after having some successful records. And in that 10-year period from 86 to 96, I basically was working all throughout Europe, Eastern and Western Europe, and had produced records from Stockholm down to Crete, and from Lisbon across to Prague, and everything in between, with artists local to the areas. And it had a lot of success with it, but at the same time I got a better understanding of what other people were doing throughout the world. So by the time I moved to Greece in 96 and started working with Greek music, yet another influence came about. Because in Greece, it's one of the rare places that actually Eastern instruments are utilized within Western music. So you have a basic Western sound, but that's integrated with ouds and bouzouki and baklamas, zelia. So it was a fantastic experience to be able to actually learn how to integrate these instruments, but in a pop setting. So while I was there, I had also taken note of the fact that, especially out of Spain and Italy, there were a lot of DJ compiled records, whether they were Café Del Mar and the early Buddha Bar. And basically these were DJs that were compiling music, so they would select songs from other artists throughout the world, put it in a said sequence, and then put it in a said packaging and put it out in the market. So from all the experience I had had from working all over the world and being in Europe for those 10 years, I had assembled quite a Rolodex of great talent that for whatever reason didn't get a record deal. But as you know, most of the great artists don't. So this Rolodex came in handy because I had the idea of why not create a living compilation? Instead of just compiling music, I would actually compose all the music in these varying styles that I had worked in. So whether it was a Middle Eastern instrumental, or if it was a samba or a bossa nova, I would just go with it. And then I'd select artists from this amazing Rolodex I had of artists, and also was introduced to a lot of new artists that came along the way, and put them all together into this one compilation and called it Living Theater. So I put the first album out, it was Living Theater Act 1, and it just exploded. And from there was a DJ from the Buddha Bar, Raven, who had found the song Solo Porto Amor that was on that record, which is amazing that he found it because actually the song was number 10 in the sequence. And as you know, most people don't really get that deep into a record unless they really love the record. But it goes to show you how if you do something and you do it well and you put it out there with a lot of love, the universe takes it from there. And there's no way to bury it. Not that I was trying to bury this song, it just wound up in the said sequence as song number 10. And so they picked it up for the Buddha Bar, and on Buddha Bar 3, and they were doing a big launch, and they made it downloadable for 2 weeks at Fnac in Paris, and basically the thing just took off. And from there, that song and other songs wound up on tons of compilations, and the Buddha Bar and myself, we decided to do a joint venture. So it became Buddha Bar Presents Living Theater. And we went on with Living Theater 2 and then Living Theater Act 3. And then my brother Frank, who I was partnered with at the time, had the idea of let's do a remix album. Because while I was in Greece, after having a lot of hit records in Greece, every year I would put out a remix album of those hits. So this time he introduced me to Tracy Young, who had just started working with Madonna as a remixer. She had been a DJ, but now she was moving into remixing. And Tracy and I got on fabulously, and she loved Living Theater, so she said, I'd love to do the remixes on this. So we actually did Tracy's first remix album, which is Tracy Young Remixes Living Theater. And of course, during the years of this music being circulated, the music wound up on countless compilations. It just almost seemed to have a life of its own, the way it traveled. And from there, I was with Chrysalis at the time as a publisher, music publisher, and the director, Kenny McPherson, had asked me, is it possible for you to do a complete instrumental record within this mode? And I said, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to do it. So I got together with a bunch of the Belgian guys that I've worked with for years and brought in Bert Joris, who's an exceptional trumpet player, and put out a record called Living Theater Presents Groove Guru. And then after that, I had had about 12 or 13 songs that I had completed, but for whatever reason just didn't wind up on the earlier albums. And I did a box set, which included Living Theater Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, plus these 12 additional songs to make a 3 CD box set. And then I sort of left it alone for some years, and the music traveled and continued to travel. I did everything for the most part here at ICP, Brussels, where I am now in Studio C. And the reason for that is this studio had such a grounding effect on me. So even if I was recording in Athens or I was recording in New York, I always brought everything back to Brussels to finish it off, because here I was able to really look at the music without any distraction whatsoever and really bring it in the way I wanted it to be. But what I'm most impressed about, and the reason why I wanted to do this interview, is it was brought to my attention several years ago that there were all these fan videos of living theater, which I was completely unaware of. So a friend of mine said, you have to go on YouTube and just dial in your songs and just see the amount of fan videos. So I of course took Solo pour toi more, one of the more famous songs from the series, and dialed it in, and there were all these videos. Then one was 1.2 million views, and others 800,000 views, etc. and so on. So now I became very curious. I started to watch them all, and then I dialed in other songs. It's a Lovely Day, We're All Beautiful, Gypsy Tears, all these songs, and all of them had 150,000 views, 75,000 views. And I was astounded by this because, once again, like I said earlier, when I was talking about the song being placed number 10, Solo pour toi on the first album, it's sort of like the universe just had its own way with it. Well, it seemed like now, not only were the songs traveling independently of the series, but people were picking them up and responding to them and actually creating their own footage around these songs. So now the universe had completely taken over, which really pleased me. And it's not often that people get the opportunity to talk about this, and that's why I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about it, to let everyone know I love this, and I want everyone to continue making films using the music, because I really do enjoy it. And the only thing I would ask is that you kindly include me in it, and you can find my contact information on the website, of course, and just let me know what you're doing. Not for any legal reasons or anything like that. It's just I would love to see it, and I'd love to be in contact with the people that are moved by this music or have been influenced by this music to such a degree that they actually get motivated by this music to create film around that music. So anyway, if we all work together on this, I think everything will travel, and of course the universe will have its way with all of it. So anyway, I would like to end just by saying that keep making film, I'll keep making music, and together maybe we'll make something really incredible. Thank you much for your time. Bye-bye.